Hello, everyone. Today I have the pleasure to host our 18th guest of my publication at a glance, Dr. John Bouvet. He did his PhD at Université de Toulouse, and he is currently doing his postdoctoral research at the LCC-CNRS in Toulouse. His talk will focus on the antimycobacterium tuberculosis activity of bio-inspired lipidic alkenyl carbinols. John, the floor is yours.
Hello everybody. Today I'm going to present you my last research paper, which deals about deciphering the antimycobacterium tuberculosis activity of bio-inspired lipidic alkenyl carbinols. So tuberculosis is a pulmonary infection due to Mycobacterium tuberculosis and was responsible for 10.8 million new infections in 2023. And amongst this new infection, 1.25 million people died the same year, making it the first cause of mortality due to an infectious disease. So it exists a preventive treatment, which is the BCG vaccine, but which has a variable efficiency amongst individuals, and also a curative treatment, which is a combination of 4 drugs to take during 6 months: rifampicin, isoniazid, pyrazinamide, and ethambutol. Unfortunately, this combination is more and more ineffective against rising multi-drug and extremely drug-resistant strains. So that's why it's important to enrich the therapeutic arsenal against tuberculosis. And to achieve that, we can rely on an endless source of inspiration, which is nature, in order to discover new antitubercular compounds. So we were inspired for this project from a family of natural products, which are lipidic alkenyl carbinols. So this compound exhibit a wide range of biological activities and are isolated from a broad diversity of medicinal plants, fungi, and marine organisms. So we were more interested in antimycobacterial lipidic alkenyl carbinols, so for example, falcarindiol, isolated from Dosus carota, which is a carrot, and which has a minimum inhibitory concentration of 3 micromolar on the strain AMTB H37RV. So from this natural product, the structure-activity relationship study began in order to increase the antimycobacterial activity and its selectivity. So when we look closely to the structure of falcarindiol, we can clearly identify 3 key structural elements: the head group, the central core, and the lipophilic tail. So we used the deconstruction-reconstruction approach, where we removed the head group, we saturated the lipophilic tail, and we removed the internal hydroxyl group to obtain this compound with an activity similar to the activity of falcarindiol. We then removed the internal triple bond to obtain this compound, so less active against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, but also less cytotoxic, with a modest selectivity index of 37. We then wanted to study the influence of the head group, so we took again this compound and we synthesized compounds with unsaturated head groups, but for most of these compounds we could see that the cytotoxicity was too high. We then also synthesized compounds with hindered head groups, but this time we could see that most of these compounds were not active enough against Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So we conclude that the head group must be small, slightly lipophilic, and saturated. We now wanted to study the influence of the central core. So we started again with this compound, and we added an internal hydroxyl group here. And we could see that the addition of the second hydroxyl group was both beneficial for the antimycobacterial activity and also preserved the low cytotoxicity, with the selectivity index of 71 for this molecule. Finally, we wanted to study the influence of the lipophilic tail. So we started with this molecule I just showed before, and we wanted to study the influence of the functionalization of the proximal position. So we added an internal triple bond, and we obtained this molecule with a good MIC of 0.3 and a selectivity index of 243. So a tenfold increase in the selectivity index compared to falcarindiol. So the addition of the second internal triple bond was both beneficial for antimycobacterial activity and also preserved the low cytotoxicity. We then wanted to study the influence of the stereochemistry on the biological activity. So we selected 2 compounds, molecule number 1 with 2 asymmetric centers and molecule number 2 with 1 asymmetric center. Molecule number 2 was separated by QLSFC separation, and we could see that there was no influence of the stereochemistry on the biological activity. Molecule number 1, the first stereocenter was controlled by an enzymatic resolution, and the second stereocenter was controlled again by QLSFC separation. And we could see there was also no influence of the stereochemistry on the biological activity. So to conclude, more than 50 compounds were synthesized for the structure-activity relationship study. We started with the natural product, which is falcarindiol, which had modest antimicrobacterial activity. And we ended up with the compounds with the 10 times better MIC value, similar to the MIC of rifampicin and isoniazid, and also a 10-fold increase in the selectivity index. We could also see that there was no influence or very low influence of the stereochemistry on the biological activity. And we now want to further explore the chemical diversity of the proximal position in order to increase again antimicrobacterial activity and selectivity. And all this work led to a release of a patent 2 years ago. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank John for this very nice presentation on how the activity and selectivity was increased through a chemistry-driven approach. To anyone watching this video, if you are interested in presenting recently published results with this format, don't hesitate to contact us. You can find all the information on this last slide. Have a good day all.